What's up, guys? How you doing? This is Micah Dobbins, host of the Micah Dobbins Show. And if you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you will be first to know when I post new videos, even when we go live and have discussions. All right, so today I'm going to go ahead and just kind of talk to you guys a little bit about the current state of affairs right now as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, working in a couple of different industries, primarily logistics, but also dabbling in a few other things. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. There's a lot of frustration from people right now because they don't know what direction the country may be going this upcoming November. And I talk about political things on this show sometimes. I talk about, some of the news stories or the things that come out. But today I just kind of wanted to peel back a little bit and relax and just kind of discuss from a personal perspective what I see going on in both the market as well as things that I see going on in this country, and maybe give a different perspective, hopefully a fresh one for some of you, or a different insight. Now, some people may have already had their minds made up. Maybe they feel like they already know what's going to happen and how things are going to play out. And if that's you, that's cool. But I tend to look at things objectively and try to look at, things that are factual and reasonable when it comes to politics, when it comes to business, when it comes to day-to-day life. Those are kind of like the lenses that I look through. I make no qualm about being, a Christian and the faith and things of that nature. So you'll hear a Judeo-Christian worldview behind most of the things that I share. But at the same time, I also want you guys to understand that I talk to people from various backgrounds that work in different fields and get insight from different levels of whether it be, business or whether it be government or other areas. And I draw a conclusion based upon the data and information that I've been able to receive. So with that being said, let's just segue right into the transportation industry. Many of you may not know, but the price of fuel, the price of oil, those kind of things affect the transportation costs in the transportation industry. And majority of the products, if you look around your house right now, whether you have a clock, you have a laptop, whether you have a light bulb or a pot or a pan, a microwave, wherever you are in your home, you're outside, maybe you got your grill or you got your picnic table or you got your nice little, gazebo back there, or even the plants that you may put to make your Zen garden and things of that nature. All of these are usually shipped by way of a truck, a train, a plane, which logistics plays a part in transportation. The price that you pay for these items is a mix of supply and demand, but it also is kind of up or down, fluctuates different directions based upon the cost to ship these things. So I want you to kind of ride with me here and think about this. When you charge extra to ship a product, the shipping companies or the trucking companies, the motor carriers, have to charge more based upon the price of fuel, because the weight and the fuel can determine, what kind of cost that we're going to have associated with moving the freight. So if a truck driver says, hey, I usually can drive from Georgia to North Carolina and it's not going to cost me but this much per gallon of diesel, but now diesel is going up because of the price of barrels of oil going up and the prices are rising. Now the driver has to charge more to carry that product from state to state. And the business is going to incur that cost initially. But the business says, well, if we got to pay more to ship this stuff, we're going to have to charge more to the customers when they buy this stuff. I want you guys to remember this, if nothing else. Most businesses do not pay increases when it comes to costs. If the government puts a penalty on a business and says, hey, you got to pay this money back, businesses will take that hit initially, and what they're going to do is they're going to raise the cost of their goods and services to the consumer to offset the loss so that they can keep their shareholders happy. I hope you all are following me here. So I'll slow it down a little bit. So the business says we can sell this can of sodas for $1.50 for 12. And you're like, man, it was great years ago. I could spend $1.50, 99 cents, get a 2-liter Coke. Now I go, it's like $3.29 for a 2-liter Coke. Now, when I try to buy a case, it's like almost $6 for a case of Coca-Cola. Well, what happened is the cost to ship these things have gone up based upon transportation and other extenuating situations, and they pass that cost along to you, the consumer. And it also has to do a lot with, as far as investing, if people are willing to put money into the market. This is why you hear a lot of people talk about, well, are the feds going to raise the interest rate on borrowing money or lower it? And you read about the S&P 500, the stock markets, futures. When you're listening to all these things in the news, sometimes it just flies over our head. But I want you guys to realize how this affects your day-to-day, how this affects your wallet, how this affects your budget and what you can afford. So when you have that understanding and you're thinking like that from a business perspective, you're able to kind of look at your political field a little different. You're able to kind of pay a little bit closer attention to the laws and to the things that are being passed, or what the lobbyists are actually saying to said politicians that represent your state, your county, your area. And you may become dissatisfied with both parties. If you start to examine closely, you may be happy with your particular party of choice, or you may be dissatisfied with another party, or both. You can become an independent. It just depends on what your desires are and what benefits you personally in some cases, or what you may feel based on, how much you're spending, how much your job is paying, etc. So in transportation, I want to break down some things to you guys. Trucking, transportation, when you look at Wells Fargo, the bank, and you see that stagecoach wagon, that was logistics. It was transportation. It is kind of like the backbone of a lot of the things that we do here. You have people that sell goods. They might create things, but they need to ship it. And that's why Wells Fargo has that stagecoach, because the stagecoaches would travel through the Indian territories and places to try to get things from one place to another. It's an old running business. You could go all the way back to the Silk Roads, or, the trading in China, the Mediterranean, or all of these great places where people would do trade and embargo and all these things. It's just a very old industry, and it's a lot of old money in transportation. It's $1 billion industry. So what happens is, we see during the global pandemic that happened, everybody had to order things online. You weren't able to really just go out because people were afraid of COVID. So transportation spiked. Prices went through the roof. Drivers were able to make top dollar to deliver things state to state. Now, they did put their neck on the line because your health is at risk when you're out and the rest of the world is kind of closed in and quarantined off. But you're that delivery driver. You're that, guy that's taking the risk to go make medical deliveries and going to a hospital, hoping you don't catch COVID. You're that guy that was willing to transport chicken or pork or eggs or whatever if you're doing refrigerated transportation or flatbed transportation. Maybe, you're carrying plants, you're carrying those things that people need to keep our economy going, to keep jobs flowing, because companies need their products shipped to and fro. So what ends up happening is the prices spike. And a lot of people had idle time on their hands because, stimulus money was given by the states and the government, and people are like, hey, let me just cut on a camera. Let me get on YouTube. Let me get on Instagram, and let me talk about how great the transportation industry is and flash a bunch of money and say, all you got to do is get a truck and a driver and you're set. So what that did is it caused a lot of people who normally weren't aware of logistics or that business to jump in it. They said, hey, I want to get a truck. I'll hire a driver. I'll do these things. Not understanding all of the federal regulations from the FMCSA that goes with trucking, not understanding how DOT or MC authority works and how you have to have inspections and the types of levels of insurance and all these things. So it was an influx of people that jumped into this new business field in their mind. And what happens then is you have more capacity, more equipment than you have jobs. Because eventually the pandemic waned and people began to go back out, and now they're going back to the store. They're not ordering as much online. They're not sitting around waiting for deliveries to come, but they're actually going out, and life is getting back to the way it was before. So what happens is these rates begin to spiral down because the driver that they got comfortable getting $5 or $6 or however much per mile is now seeing rates drop down to like $1.37, $1.50, $1.79. Some people as low as 88 cents per mile, and people are taking this kind of stuff. So it offset that market a little bit where the drivers are scrambling like, hey, what's going on? And you see businesses closing in the logistics field, which is a good indicator when you see businesses laying off and, you know, jobs becoming more and more scarce. Is a good indicator of how our market is doing. You can kind of see like, wait a minute, how much is it for a barrel of oil now? And the wars, be it in Ukraine or the wars that take place in the Middle East, this also affects the price of oil, crude oil, etc. So all of these things are connected, and you're able to kind of gauge where we are as a country when you start looking at how your logistics is being handled. Of course, you have other industries, automotive, you have banking and other ones you could look at. You could look at the stock markets, and it's kind of an indicator as well. But I want you guys to understand the importance of transportation right now, that the grocery stores, if truck drivers park their trucks and quit running, you would not be able to hop down to Publix, to Kroger, to Wawa, wherever you go, and just purchase some items. If you're up north, Myers or whatever, you wouldn't be able to just go to Food Lion and just grab you that case of pop or grab you those steaks that you want to grill, you know, for 4th of July weekend or whatever the case may be. If the drivers were no longer able to provide the transportation services, it would be a wrap in a lot of those industries. So I want you to kind of understand how these two things coexist, how they roll together. So you add in the lack of products to ship. If the warehouses and the companies that produce start to downsize because the orders are no longer coming in because they've spiked the prices so high that people can't afford things, and now they're going other methods or trying to find other ways to survive. Well, now these companies begin to lay off, and when the companies begin to lay off, less stuff is produced, which means less stuff is being shipped, which means less loads for the drivers to carry, and it just snowballs from there. And the trucking industry has been in a recession now for probably almost a year or 2 years. It's been going longest than it's been for quite some time. They said, you know, late last year in the fall it might pick up. It didn't happen. Then they said maybe 2024 it'll have a roaring comeback. It didn't happen. Now economists and different logistical experts are saying it won't be till 2025 possibly, because we need to get rid of more drivers, get rid of more trucks, more equipment to balance things out a little bit. Drivers, brokers, and shippers are all going back and forth. People point to blame. They say the brokers are taking all the money. The brokers are saying the shippers aren't giving us enough money to ship this stuff at a reasonable rate. The carriers are saying that, you know, oh, we can't find loads. We got to go direct to shippers, cut the brokers out, and we'll get more money. And it's just this blame game. But the reality is it's just not enough to go around right now. It's too many trucks. And because of the amount of inexperienced drivers, it's a bad cocktail mix, because insurance skyrocketed because you got jackknife tractor trailers, accidents happening, rollover accidents. You know, you already have to have $1 million policy. Now you're, you know, get $1 million with $2 million aggregate and all these other things, depending on your shipper's request of your insurance coverage. So you see all of this coming together into this big crescendo of an economy. And in the midst of all this, you have an election year. You have a presidential election coming up where both sides are saying, you know, vote for me, I'll set you free, we're going to make it right. So I'm going to kind of segue into that a little bit. Depending on where you are right now, you've seen the price of gas, you've seen the price of groceries, bread, eggs, etc. accelerate. If you go grocery shopping today, those same items that you used to be able to buy and spend maybe $100, $120 and feel like, hey, I got a decent amount for a family of 2 or 4, whatever. It don't get you anywhere. Sorry, I'm stuttering because of the intensity of this situation. You don't have that same stretch with your dollar anymore. You go to the grocery store, and I remember people would go to the name brand stores first, and you would buy like Ritz crackers, or you would buy like Peter Pan or Jiffy or Skip, you know, peanut butter or these kind of things. Now the store-bought brands are becoming more and more popular. People are going to like Aldi's or going to Little to find items at a discount. They're bargain hunting. You know, we're not just longer the days of just saying I'm going to one grocery store. I'm just going to be in Walmart and buy everything, because Walmart may have those chips at, 75 cents more expensive than if you went to Aldi's and bought a big bag of those chips. And, people are trying brands that they normally would snub their nose at because of the current state of our economy. This is why you guys have to really think when it comes to, these elections, who you're voting for, who you're supporting. You guys have to think beyond just that, but that's important. But you also have to think about what career choices you're going to go into, how you're going to budget and govern your households. Who are you going to give ear to when they're giving these financial advice statements and things? Because some people will listen online and spend a great amount of time on TikTok and Instagram and believe the hype. They drink the Kool-Aid, as young people say. They fall for the okie doke, the banana in the tailpipe, for those who remember Beverly Hills, back in the day, the Eddie Murphy movie. You have to start to think soberly. You have to start thinking with the right kind of mind frame when it comes to these things. So I'm going to give you guys some advice for free. Take it with a grain of salt if you like. I feel like right now, where we are as a people, as a nation, you have to make a conscious choice of whether you're going to continue to do things as they have always been or try something different. You have to make a conscious choice. Or am I going to continue to just keep doing the same old, same old? What I mean by that, on a work scale, the old way was I work hard at this job for 30 years, or if you work for a government or a state job, 20 years, and you can retire. And when I reach retirement age, I get my money. I might have gotten a pension, or I might have had some other, maybe I got a 401k, in my generation, the older, they started, get into 401ks, and you're stacking this money so that when you retire, you can actually leave the workforce and just enjoy your golden years, your latter years of life. But what you're going to see right now is a lot of retirees are working still. A lot of those who had planned on retiring realize inflation is so high, I can't afford to not work. Even with the money that I'm getting from said job or pension or stipend or whatever else you earned, you still need a part-time just to be able to get gas and get food, because that rate that you're getting from them, that flat pay that you're getting, it's not equivalent to where the prices are now. Rent, I remember when I was like 18, 19, 20 years old, you can go to Atlanta and find a 1-bedroom for rent for like $500. You would be hard pressed in 2024 to try to find anywhere for $500. It's not happening. A 1-bedroom now is going to cost you $1,000 probably and up. You're talking 2-3 bedroom, you might be at $18, almost $2,000 for rent, not a mortgage, rent. So you have to really step back and say, am I going to keep doing that same old model where I'm going to devote myself to this company where there's no more upward mobility? I've reached that glass ceiling and I've worked there now 10 years. I'm just going to do 20 more years. And maybe by the time I'm 65, 67, they're saying Social Security is running out. By the time our generation gets of that age, we may not even be able to pull or draw from it. So this is where your elections matter. This is where you need to think about those kind of things. But also, you have to think about what can you do outside of the norm to change this. So my recommendation right now for people is you need to find a way to make extra income, be it through a LLC, creating a business. It could be a side LLC. You can still have your 9-to-5 and just have your LLC on the side. You might have to take on a second job and look into it making wise investments, which means you have to sit down with a representative from an investment firm, what's this, Charles Schwab or Brathwaite, one of them. You're going to have to sit down with, and then don't go straight with the internet people, because sometimes these guys get online and say, oh, I'll show you how to do Dogecoin, Dogcoin, eCoin, eBit, we're gonna give you some digital currency. Sometimes you got to actually go to a brick and mortar office and sit down with a representative, somebody with some certifications and some papers, and at least somebody you could actually sue or go after should something happen. You want to make sure that they have what's called a fiduciary responsibility to you as the investor. A fiduciary responsibility means that before they make money, they need to look out for your best interest first. So you can go to a stock broker or whatever, and if you don't see that word fiduciary responsibility to you, then they get their commission whether you get paid or not. Stock market drops, you lose everything. I got my commission up the top. I don't care what happens to you, Joe Blow. But if I have a fiduciary responsibility to you, then I'm legally obligated and required to look out for your best interest with these investments. And I'm not going to just willy-nilly just throw it anywhere at anything. So, these are some things you might want to educate yourself on if you're not going to do, the stock route. Looking into some CDs that gain interest, looking into some bonds, looking into some mutual funds, learning how compound interest works. And for those who don't know, compound interest, you have a lot of people talking about this financial stuff. What's the name? Susie Orr, you got Dave Ramsey, you got Boyce Watkins, you got all kind of people out there that talk financial literacy type stuff online. But it would be good for you to start reading books and researching and learning for yourself so that you won't just be out there in the dark when it comes to your economic status and finances and helping your family. So I want to bring this out. Having an LLC helps. When you have a business, it gives you tax benefits and breaks that you can reap those benefits from. You can write things off. You have, there's actually a law called the Augusta Rule even that I've shared with people about, where you can have meetings with your boy. Now make sure you're doing this legally. Don't do the homeboy hookup. Don't go out there and be like, man, we finna be scamming, bro. We finna get this money. We gonna use the Augusta Rule and charge $2,000 a meeting. I get $20,000 back with my taxes. I'm gonna work this. Don't do it professionally. Learn to do all things well. Be like, you know what? I work as unto the Lord. Do it to a higher standard. I'm doing this. God is watching. Even if Uncle Sam and the FBI don't see me, God sees me. Do things to a higher standard so that way you don't, work honest with all men. So that way you don't have to worry about them coming after you later and, IRS coming and taking all your stuff or you being locked up. Now, I know sometimes people don't know the tax codes or they don't know how much they need to pay and they made all this money and the IRS will come after you and say, hey, by the way, you underpaid. Give us our bread. We finna start locking up accounts and taking houses and taking cars and taking things. So it can happen to anybody if you're uneducated in these things. This is why I'm putting this out here in this video for you guys to start doing your due diligence and really start digging deeper into financial literacy and see some things that can help your future for your family and yourself. So with that being said, filing an LLC, getting you a business, it's best to find a business that you're passionate about. So that way, when you're tired from a long day at work, you're excited about your next phase of work. It's like, man, I love doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and put my energy into this. Even though I'm tired, I get excited. This gives me joy to do this. And when you find something like that you can make money off and make a career out of, it can help you. You have too many opportunities through the internet and too many ways to learn to sit on your hands and just let life happen to you. So at this point, if you're working a job and you're not making the kind of money you want to make, start looking online, educating yourself, boost your resume, and then go out there and apply for those jobs that you can work that will pay the kind of salary you want. If you can't afford to go to college or you can't afford to spend money for a higher education, save up enough to get you a continuing education. Just get a certification in the field. Maybe you can't go to law school, but maybe you can become a courier that handles documents for the law office and work your way up from there. Because once you're in that circle, in that network, you may be able to talk to somebody about becoming a paralegal, and they'll be able to give you insight or help on how to get in on that field. You may be able to become a medical courier, and somebody might introduce you to medical billing or coding, or maybe they'll give you a contract where you're shipping for the company and now you're able to make lucrative money to provide for your families. So you got to think bigger than just the traditional way of, I'm going to work this job and eventually I'm going to, reach this nirvana, this peace, this haven. It's not happening like that anymore. A lot of jobs will lay you off. I saw a meme where they were saying, isn't it funny how a job wants you to give a 2-week notice before you quit? But they don't give you 2-week notice before they lay you off or fire you, And it's true. A lot of times they're like, oh, by the way, doors are closed. We're out of business. Sorry, guys, we filed bankrupt. It's over. I saw trucking companies where people were reporting to work. Drivers were trying to use fuel cards and the company is shut down completely. and they were like blindsided. They didn't even get their last paycheck. So, they demand you to give them that kind of insight and loyalty and let us know you're going to leave to another job, but they don't return the same, So we have to think wise, people. If you're of the mindset that whoever's in the White House is actually the one that's going to save you and help you, God help you. You got to wake up from that mindset. The president and, vice president can do many things. They can, do stimuluses. You can get some temporary money. They can pass some laws that may benefit you on one level or another. But the reality is you need God's help. It's up to you to get up, get out, and do something. It's up to you to realize, hey, I need to go and work 2 or 3 jobs, whatever I need to do to make this happen. And you can't allow the fact that your party's not in to make you throw your hands up and say, well, it's going to be 4 more years of this. No. You need to go ahead and decide that I need to make something happen. Let me get to it. I, for one, believe that both parties have their own selling points that they give us. The Democrats thing, or the Republican thing rather, is that, if you work really hard and you do what you're supposed to do, you'll get just like me. And you're like, okay. And then the Republicans' bag, or the Democrats' bag is, we have all this, but we're just like you. And it's like, nah, bro, like both of y'all have made it. Both of y'all are in a better arena. Politicians getting 6 figures or better, they're able to invest in things that the private citizens don't even know are coming. And they're leaving millionaires, getting book deals, owning multiple properties, being able to get free health care. All these things that the average citizen's denied. So it's time for us to wake up and stop feeling as if these people are actually concerned with you. When they start talking about we're going to sit at the dinner table and have those discussions, they aren't looking to hear how your son's baseball practice is going and how much your daughter's college tuition is going to cost and how high insurance costs to having teenage drivers are running you out of house and home and that roof they got a leak and damage. That's not the type of table discussion they're trying to have with you. The table discussion they want to have is, look at what I'm going to do if I get in for you. Vote for me. That is the one-way conversation we're having right now, folks. It is about your vote for them at the end of the day. You can't afford the $5,000 a plate luncheon to sit and tell them your personal sob story. You can't afford the $15,000 a plate luncheon or a function or sponsorship to talk about your grievances in your community. Now, maybe some of you have it. I'm not saying all, but a lot of people can't just cut that check and go sit there in front of their elected official and tell those kind of stories and get them to lobby and change laws. But you know who can? Coca-Cola can, Home Depot can, FedEx can, you know what I mean? Experian, all these big companies, they have the money to say, we'll send some representatives. We'll pay for a person in D.C. to lobby for us and to say, hey, could you ease that fuel restriction? Because we ship a lot of fuel. And with that right there, it's kind of cutting into our bottom line. And we want our investors to be happy. See, they have insight and the financial ability to do the things that you can't. And this goes even on a community by community basis. I need all of you to hear me on this. As a community, you may have the collective bargaining power or money to do this, which means that, if I'm of the Indian race and I come from India, I may be able to get some other fellow business owners and we put some money together, we lobby. Same for the Hispanic community or the Jewish community or other communities. However, in the Black community, the African American community, we tend to have a hard time. We have to rely on other organizations to try to help us to get there. And then those organizations, once they start making money, they're no longer about power to the people, help the people. It's about, I want to hold my seat as the CEO, so I'm going to throw y'all a bone every now and then. But I like this. It's comfortable. I'm living good. Absolute power corrupt. Absolutely. Once you reach that level of status, it's hard for you to come back down to a commoner and know what we're going through in the trenches. Now, I don't want to make it sound like, oh, boo-hoo, oh, woe is me. You live in one of the greatest societies where you can thrive. That's one thing I will say, about this nation, about America right now. You have the land of opportunity at your fingertips. You don't have a government that's going to say, hey, by the way, you have one too many cars. We're going to start taking those and spreading them out to other people. Or, hey, by the way, we don't like the fact that, your invention is selling out globally. So we're going to go ahead and make you give this all over to us. We're taking ownership of it. They have monopoly laws and things of that sort. But for the most part, you can really do great things within the American system if you're actually here. And you should take full advantage of that while you're here. Go ahead and start that business. Go ahead and get that bank business account. Go ahead and start building your business credit to where you can get that loan to build those things. Make sure that you're cautious. You're making calculated risk, not foolish risks. Don't say I'm gonna bet the house, the farm, and everything and lose everything, without taking a calculated risk. Learn your business. And I've shared this. If you look at my videos, I talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I try to share these kind of little nuggets and things to help you make wise decisions in your doing. But at any rate, as far as we're looking at, our nation right now, there are two different directions that are being presented before us. And some are saying, hey, listen, if we get Trump in, it's going to make everything right because he's going to build the economy and make us rich. Guys, start listening to policies. What are you going to do that's going to affect and help me personally? Okay, if you're going to open up the Keystone Pipeline, is that going to drop my prices of gas? And if gas is going to be $1 or $2 a mile instead of $3 a gallon, I'm sorry, I said a mile, $1 or $2 per gallon, is that gonna help me drive my car longer and put less fuel in and more money for other purposes? Great. You're going to, make sure that the price of the food that I'm paying for and the grocery price, you're gonna bring them down? Great. You're going to actually, help when it comes to roads or bridges or rebuilding them. And I'm talking about both parties now. I'm not talking about one in particular. Whatever, whoever's promising, whatever. Find out what's going to be best for your community and area and stop allowing them to feed you these false surface issues that aren't even going to affect you. Many of you are fighting for things that you're never planning on encountering. I had somebody tell me, oh, well, if you vote for this one, it's the end of the democracy. And I'm like, how? I mean, was there a law that the Senate and Congress passed recently that said we're now going to be a sovereign monarch? Is there something I missed? Or is there, a Supreme Court is now going to be moved out of the way where they're not going to have any say in the country anymore and there's no balance of power? We're just going to have one branch that's going to run everything, legislative and executive and judicial. Just forget all that. One branch will run everything. Like, how? Like, don't just say stuff. They're going to put y'all back in chains. Was there a bus that I didn't know about that's planning on rounding everybody up from the city and start handing out chains and shackles? Like, make it make sense. And on the flip side, don't tell me that, oh, well, because we're voting for this one, now we're actually going to see America become this great utopia that we're all going to get along and all of your problems are going to be over because you're advancing one of your own. Like, show me the policies. Show me what it is we're going to actually be doing here that my children and their children are going to actually benefit from. And this is the kind of thing, these are the kind of discussions I would love to have. I've actually invited politicians to come on the show before. I would love to sit and talk with both sides. I myself am an independent, and most elections are decided by the independent voters, the ones that are willing to say, I'm willing to hear both sides out and see where I land. And I make no apologies for that. I was brought up in a particular party and voted a particular party majority of my life based upon my upbringing. I do remember after 9/11 wanting to vote and say, you know what, I think I'm gonna vote for another party. So when I say independent, I mean, have you voted for both sides in different times of your life and you're fine with whatever decision it ends up? Now, the last couple of elections, I've been dissatisfied with a couple of candidates. I put Jesus Christ on the ballot when I'm really fed up with everybody and just vote on the issues that matter to my state level because I realize that, federally, it is what it is. And some of you get mad at that. Well, if you don't vote for Trump, you voted for Kamala. If you didn't vote for Kamala, you voted for Trump. I thought it was my voice, my vote. It counted what I voted for. Like, how are you just going to decide for me like that? So what I would like to hear from both Republican and Democrats, y'all can leave it in the comments if you want. Give me policies that your candidate is offering that is going to help our nation and help me as an individual as well, please. I would love to hear from the audience on that matter. And forgive me for getting a little passionate on the subject, but it upsets me to see people divided and fighting when it used to be in this great society. If you had an opposition thought, or you didn't agree with the other person, we could discuss through civil discourse, and we can not call each other names and be petty and agree to disagree. We could say, well, you view it that way, I view it this way. When we look at W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, and it's like, well, I feel like we could help uplift our community through education in college. And the other says, well, no, I feel like we need to do entrepreneurship and own businesses. How both can coexist, or we can agree with one frame of thought or the other. But to get to the point where we're now calling each other, well, you're not really black, you're not really white, you're not really who you are because of who you vote for, I think is a silly, frivolous argument. And I refuse to engage in that kind of nonsensical mindset. It's very simple for me. It's very black and white for me. And I need, more people to open their eyes and really start to look at things from a serious lens, because elections do have consequences. Just by who you vote, it can change, a lot of our judicial system. If you hand over the Senate and Congress, a lot of things will get passed, and it's going to affect you eventually one day, vice versa. So you do need to get involved. I'm not one of those people that are for complacency to say, my vote don't matter, so it don't matter. It's still your choice, though. It's a free country. Just like there's a lot of misinformation that we see on X and on Twitter and on TikTok, etc. X and Twitter, same thing. But we see a lot of misinformation, and it's a free country. If they want to put false information out, fine. I personally like to wait and get the facts and get the information and do my research and due diligence. If I can't be an eyewitness myself, I like to get a firsthand account of someone who was physically there or something that was documented, so that we're not putting misinformation out and confusing folks. So this is one of my agreements to you, one of my pleas to you as the listening audience of the Micah Dobbins Show. I agree. My pledge to you is to try to be truthful and honest and open about everything. Honest, objective, and real. That's what you see in the intro when the credits roll. I want to be objective. I'm willing to hear your side, consider it, weigh it against the matter, and then look at the facts as well and say, well, hey, listen, this is what I see based off I call it like I see it: a spade, a ace, a queen, a king, a king. Instead of trying to sway you, I would rather educate you and you come to the conclusion through study and through diligence and through prayer. So with that being said, the current state of affairs, I am one that feels that we need to really listen and see what these politicians are going to really offer in the near future, but we're not expecting them to be the one to rescue us. That's not going to happen, people. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. If that's what you thought, you're sadly mistaken. You're going to have to use your God-given talents, pray, seek him and his son Jesus, and Lord, help me to be able to help my family, or to be able to put myself in a better situation. Lead and guide my feet. Show me what I need to do. If a man don't work, he don't eat. I can't just live off the system and not get it. I got to work at some point. So let's do it. Stop listening to those voices that are telling you that you ain't nothing but a thug, a gangster, a killer, a pimp, a hoe, and all these negative things. Stop listening to that kind of stuff that brings about degradation and destroys your mental capacity to think higher. I'm not saying that all of it is just willpower and mind, that, oh no, you need God's help, definitely, you need prayer. But you need to remember that what I consume, what I'm taking in, as the Bible says, a man thinketh, so is he. If all I listen to is trail music and all I'm thinking about is killing the next man, the moment somebody does step on my sneaker, the moment somebody does cut me off in traffic, I'm ready to jump out the car and throw hands or pull out that pistol. So we have to stop listening to the kind of things and entertaining ourselves with drama, just nonsense drama. Watching shows about love and romance and people triple and quadruple time and cheating, flipping, flopping, and all this nonsense. Instead, take that time to learn a skill. Say, you know what? I'm going to cut the TV off. I'm going to cut the radio off. I'm going to go listen to a podcast that's going to teach me how to do taxes. and I'm going to start doing my own taxes first. Maybe I'll go to H&R Block or Jackson Hewitt and take a course with them, or I'll work for them over the tax season so that I can learn the different tax codes. And then I'm going to start teaching others and benefiting and helping people. Maybe I'm going to listen to podcasts or watch videos that's going to teach me how to build credit, so that I can learn how to navigate through a capitalistic society and use it to my advantage to leverage businesses and homes and cars and other things so that I can better my family's existence here. I'm going to start listening to banking podcasts and learn how the financial system actually works. But stop giving your ear to Meg Thee Stallion, Sexy Red, or Cardi B, Shouty B, whatever else, T.I. and the rest of the like, oh, Jay-Z, Beyonce. He's happily a billionaire, but he's not leading you to being a billionaire. And you're just going to keep consuming this stuff. And it's not just the rappers. It go for some of y'all. Y'all love that country music. Oh, my dog died and my girl took my house and my car and I'm going to shoot her when I see her. Like, put that stuff away and start listening to things that's actually going to build your character and help you to be a productive citizen in society. And I know some are, ready to turn it off at this point, but I hope you're still here and you're willing to hear the outcome of the matter. Because when you begin to listen and you begin to enlighten into other things, you're going to see a difference in your children's life. You'll see a difference in how you communicate with your wife or your husband and how you go to work. I would go to work. There was a time where a job was just like, hey, I just here for a check like everybody else. I'm just waiting for 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock to hit so I can clock out and go home. And I remember I started reading books while I would be at work on my break. And sometimes even while on the dock, I just stop and read a magazine, read an article. I'll read Inc. I read Fast Company. I read CEO, Executive. And I began to see how people who ran businesses usually work a job like it was their own business. I listened to one, because there used to be CDs that I used to get of people in podcast speaking. And I believe it was the CEO of GM. I believe he was it not General Motors, GE, General Electric. And I remember him saying how when I worked the job, I began to treat the job like it was my company. I began to clean up the parking lot as if I was the CEO. I began to sweep and do as if I was the one who was running this. And it prepared him. It helped him in his interactions with people and in his work ethic and in his eye to detail, to where he then became CEO and was able to go into greener pastures. And sometimes when I'm at other people's businesses, even though I run my own, I remember I was helping move some products at a facility and I saw a tripping hazard on the ground. Now, I don't work there. I'm a contractor. I don't answer to them. But the supervisor that I used to be, the supervisor in me was like, that's a tripping hazard. Somebody could get hurt. Something needs to be done. And I took action. And believe it or not, when I would work these jobs and I would treat the job as if it was my company and I would step up and push, then they would offer promotion. They would offer other opportunities. And when I realized that there's no more opportunities here, I've reached that glass ceiling. This is as high as I'm going to get. And no other job is willing to offer the salary requirement that I need for my family. It was at that moment that I realized I've got to go out and start my own. So I say that to say to you, you can do it. You can do it. Stop listening to those voices in the past of regret, saying, man, if I was an athlete. I was almost All-American. I could have went pro NBA. Okay, maybe you don't have it anymore. Now it's time for you to start that coaching school. Start training other kids how to become all-stars. Start teaching other kids how to make it an NBA. Volunteer as a coach. Get you some wins under your belt. Go ahead and try to go to a high school. Try to move up to a college. Some colleges pay their coaches more than the NBA, the NFL, and all of them anyway. You can get multi-million dollars being a coach at a college if you got the right playbook and you can help people win. Start using your natural abilities and your talents that God gave you. And when you need extra help, you got things like ChatGPT and AI, different things you can do to help you to build better writing skills, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Begin to educate yourself and better yourself. And this is one of the things that I want to promote on this channel as well. Things that help you for self-improvement. When I started this show, I talked about your health is your wealth. I talked about health and wellness. I had word of the day. I talked about, your spiritual vitamin. You got to have that word of God to help keep you motivated. I talked about different things that were going on globally or, locally, breaking news stories, things of that sort. I would give like movie and film reviews or reflections in history. So I want to continue to do these things. However, I do know there is an algorithm in YouTube. So sometimes, the video will go up to 1,000 views. Some only get 20 views depending on the subject matter. So what I need you guys to do is to like, share, subscribe, and to help promote the content so that we can get more people with the same mindset when it comes to this type of positivity. I hope you have enjoyed this segment. This is Micah Dobbins. I am about to sign off. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Just Google The Micah Dobbins Show. You can even visit the website, sign up for my e-newsletter at The Micah Dobbins Show. All of these things are out there for you to enjoy. I appreciate you guys. And if you want to support, you could even do Cashapp The Micah Dobbins Show, and you can send something that way. I would greatly appreciate it as I continue to strive to do all God calls me to be and to be a positive voice in the ocean that may be a despair and destitute. I want to be that voice of positivity, and I want to be that voice of reason in an unreasonable, unlogical society. Not saying everybody, but there are quite a few out there. This is Micah signing off. I hope you guys enjoy it. Be blessed. Until next time, I'm out.